key, and now we'll continue. Okay, so grafted insulation. What did we do there? Okay, first of all, on July 21st, 2009, blower and door testing. I mentioned that to someone earlier.
Yeah.
They put this air system in the door that they put in, and they'll measure pressure for air leaks and so forth. Now, we're not gonna show this stuff, but wherever you see a film clip there's an actual video of the person explaining the stuff and what's going on. That's the kind of embedding I've done in the PowerPoint presentation. But we're just gonna walk through with him, and he came up with, this is just part of a large report. Phase one, we had people in, and you can see there's a video clip there, but we're not gonna show it, where I still have that bald spot my son talks to me about, my power son, but anyway. They're doing a swag, and they're saying 14 tons for what's there, and I said, well, you know, we got a few years, we're gonna, and I'm an energy engineer, I think we can shrink that. And they said, oh, they size for worst case of -1 degree for Portland area. I said,
No.
no, my data, I want something lower.
Yeah.
And so at that point, they go, oh, well, maybe you're gonna need about 20 tons. And I'm there. No, I think when we get done, it's gonna be a lot less. So we went through Paul's report. He went through all the locations, air leaks and so forth. Found a lot of great things, but he also mentioned there's a lot of things that seem like they were never finished. And I'm there, yeah, because he ran out of money in 1987, Black Monday or whatever. So we hired them to come in and do the installation and so forth, and
Well, the logs are a good insulator, but there were other places where we
right,
don't have.
and they put the insulation seam in between and so forth. Those were great. But like, we got 56 windows, and they never finished the trim around them. And you have all these air leaks, and they were running the wood stove
Right.
with no outside air, so
Yeah.
you've got this huge
Such a great
negative
idea.
pressure pulling in the cold
But we
air.
had, in the storage area upstairs, we put insulation.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and wallboard and stuff, because those whole, it's just, yeah.
That was probably the best money you spent, is having that analyzed.
Yep, yeah, and so going from water, 50
Well,
gallon
of course, the
water-
basement downstairs wasn't insulated either.
No.
In fact, it didn't even have a finished floor.
Now, you see the visqueen and stuff up here, that's what Paul put in his team. There was nothing, it was just a big
What is that
landscape.
you're saying you put in?
The plastic you see on the wall.
Oh, right.
To create an air barrier. So we went through everything, spent a year or two, and just little things too, like, here's the great one, this window, you see the curtains here right now? They didn't have any curtains there. So during the summer,
Great.
the heat coming in and the cold going out during the
Is
winter.
the glass double?
Uh,
Or triple?
I think it's double,
Yeah.
but, you know, in the winter, a lot of cold comes through
Yeah.
there, so we'll close it
Yeah.
off. And in the summer, you know, the sun's beating in and heating the
Yeah.
place, so we close it then too.
and so, the reason I mention this is, let me back up a second. I'm gonna show later, there's computer programs, you go online, you tell them where you live, what direction your glass is facing, and they'll calculate what's your amount of heat you generate off of that, BTUs and so forth. With the basement, we not only insulated, we put in 2x2s or whatever. We had to use the nails with the 22 caliber bullet to pound it into the cement, because we want to do heavy insulation throughout.
You don't have any water problems, do you, in your basement?
No, we're 35 feet above all the
The
water
lake.
and stuff here,
Yeah.
so.
And even though they're technically a new lobster, I bet it's sand. The soil.
No,
it's not
no.
sand here.
You'll see.
Okay.
There's a lot of rock and clay, and it was about 25 feet down. We hit granite.
Wow.
Good old granite.
Which is why we have a radon issue.
Yeah,
Mm.
and so we had to put on radon air and water equipment.
Well, the good news is you don't have a water issue.
No. Wood stove, up to 9 quarts of wood a year they were burning in there, but their efficiency had to be
Wow.
20%
You did the
because,
original wood stove, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
It's a nice big wood stove. I did tests and with a fan blowing air upstairs from there, and I would have a small fan blowing on the stove. It triples the heat off of it. I could maintain 60 degrees above ambient for the entire house. Just-
Well, and when we lost power for a couple of days, a few
Yeah.
months ago,
Yeah.
we just ran the wood stove for heat, and
Yeah.
it was sufficient.
Yeah, so, the key thing is, they were using the stove, and the room temperature, tempered air is going in and up the stack. And that creates a lot of negative air pressure, so any leaks you have,
Yeah,
is gone. We put in this ductwork, from what was a dryer vent that had been there prior, so we're using something that was there before. And now we pull the air in from outside, and so all the negative air pressure
no,
ceased. No insulation, like, you look at the back wall over here, no plastic, nothing else, just concrete. And all this is exposed outside, with whatever temperature. It was truly an ice cave, but not as thick as a good ice cave. No insulation, no vapor pressure, so, we were redoing the ductwork. Remember the truck leaving, Bob Hutchinson,
Well, that was part of putting in the geothermal,
right,
you know.
yep. High quality metalwork out with the old.
Instead of
Simple
cardboard.
thing like this, the door they had, near the patio, open inward. That meant all the winds and stuff off the lake were hitting it, buffeting it, and cracking it open a bit.
Yeah.
So we bought new doors that open outward. We still use the other doors elsewhere down there, so I hate to waste things. You'll
Yeah.
see 6 pair of sneakers in the atrium, they all look alike, but they're different ages. I'll use them for different things. So here's what it was looking like back then, and there's Paul, when he ran the second test. And when everything got done, and we did the analysis, now instead of 20, it was, they wanted 12 tons for -1. We showed, a little under 5 tons is all we needed now from all we did from the, blower and the door stuff. But I'm there, okay, we'll increase it, cause I want to be geared up for at least -20, so we'll increase it another third. We'll go from 4 tons to 6. And so that's what we did. We did a 2-stage, if we have any demand for heating, 4 tons come on immediately. If it can't quite supply or match the temperature, then the second stage comes on, 2 more tons. That happens less than 3% of the time here. So the 4 tons for all we did was great. In fact, we used the second 2 tons so little, that's when I started thinking, a passive solar atrium where I can use some of the excess geothermal to heat it at night if I need when the sun isn't shining. So that got me thinking there. So anyhow, again, Kaizen. Here, the development of the basement. And that padding you see there costs more than the carpet. I wanted good insulation, that last generation.
when did you put the geothermal in? And does
2011.
it involve digging
Yes.
down?
Yes,
When did you do it?
2011.
Okay.
And I figured the payback was 7 years. Let's see, this is 2024, so it's been 50. Gee, it's been paid off for 7
Yeah.
years. So here was the design. I was working on with Cindy's, permission. Door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. And, that's what it looks like afterwards.
Pretty close.
Yeah, yeah. And so here's what the Airbnb looks like down there now. We can sleep up to 8 or 9 people. The 9th, the heavy snorers go into the outer rooms on the futon. And so, with that, now we're gonna proceed behind door number 2.
Okay.
And that's what we see. There's where the wood stove is and so forth. And we wanted more insulation, improve the vapor and stuff there. So we were always adding more and more on over time. And so there's the wall facing east where the washer dryers that some people saw who was here earlier. And I told them, you're gonna see a door at some point, because there was no door there. It was just a solid wall, a perfectly good solid wall that I put a hole in. This is the eastern interior basement wall facing the wood stove. And so that's the outer wall there. And again, note how the land drops like 9 feet, and if you keep rolling, you go off a cliff. So there's the eastern wall. By all this heavy insulation and so forth, again, remember that dome. I'm trying to create a dome that I don't care what the weather is outside, we're self-contained inside. And we did the same thing with the north, more insulation there. We had insulation, we did more. So again, with the north side that was exposed, I'm trying to do the equivalent of earth being buried there or something. And here's what the western side looked like when we first got it. And I have to apologize to my neighbors to the west, because I was always experimenting, trying to find ways to air entrapment and so forth. And so what I would do here is I try to entrap air. I have these tarps. It had to look like a purple pimple to the people across the coast. Sometimes I'd find a brown one, that wasn't quite as bad. But,
How did you feel about that, Cindy?
Well, I didn't have to look at it. Yeah.
and I'd laid a canoe and some stumps on it, try to hold it down, because when the winds come.
Did you do that during the winter? or-
Yeah,
Yeah,
in the winter,
yeah.
in the winter.
Yeah.
You could paint pine trees on it.
Maybe.
So between 2009 and 2015, high winter winds from the northwest would eventually destroy it. I needed something more permanent. I was getting sick and tired of going out there and getting up on a step ladder and
Oh,
moving
yeah.
stuff around and the stumps. And so we did this.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
there you go, wow.
And so we expanded to 3 interior rooms, all heavily insulated with windows and walls and so forth, and had to match deals. And it was tinny windows here. There were air leaks and so
Yeah,
forth.
we replaced some windows.
But now where do you put your canoes?
Elsewhere. we have places for that stuff. So that was the original outer room. Here's the second room we put in, third room. And so we've really now,
Yeah.
with air insulation and so forth, those outer rooms are not heated. They can be. They're insulated enough. We have electric heater in there in case we do have an overflow or a real loud snore that they gotta stick out there. There is a heater out
Space
there,
heater.
space heater. So that's what we did there. We went to the attic, more insulation, again, Kaizen. Now, this film clips in here, I mentioned to you how in Ohio we did energy efficiency and so forth, and there was a home of a friend. I helped him insulate to help him out on condition I'd also film it. so I could show it to our clients and so forth, what they could do there. And so that happened to be, in Ohio. But again, Kaizen, we're always trying to
I like that.
find ways. So we've essentially now taken care of the roof. So we're slowly putting the pieces together. Now let's focus on what could be done with passive solar opportunities. Everything we've talked about so far has just been insulation, eliminating of air leaks, and air entrapment and so forth. And what I'm gonna do again is, I'm gonna pause it for